Let's see. There we go. We are now streaming everywhere. So if you are watching us right now, let us know where you're watching us from, just so we make sure that we are everywhere for reals. And we are. Okay, fantastic. So today we are talking about books, specifically how to publish your book without writing a single word. So as you know, in our format, we will have you come on in and actually pick the brain of our expert in real time. And our expert today is Mr. Martyn Cook. How are you doing, Martyn?
I'm doing awesomely, thank you, Ifat. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So Martyn and I, this is our third time's a charm encounter. And what we started talking about a little bit about my story and my journey. And if you haven't watched that, go to destinypodcast.com, right, Martyn? .com.
Smarter Destiny Podcast. You abbreviated a little bit. I'm not sure that will quite get you there.
Smarter Destiny
Podcast.
Smarter Destiny Podcast. And find the interview if you want to hear a little bit about my story and how I got to where I did. And then we dove into engagement and actually engaging with your audience and building a loyal audience. And that led to another amazing session where we dove into 4 easy ways to get raving fans and hungry buyers. And you can find that across the webs as well. And today we are diving actually into Martyn's story because it's fascinating how software engineer, right? You started with software and you wrote books. This is your second book. So tell me a little bit about that journey from that entrepreneur geeky that you were into self-publishing.
Love that. Entrepreneur geeky. I'm going to get business cards made up with that.
I'm a geek.
I mean, where do I start? As we put on the bio, I think for this presentation, I dabbled in the internet probably for the first time when I was 14. I learned to design websites because I thought it would impress a girl who was designing websites. It didn't, but it didn't work at all. Like it failed horrendously, but I could make websites. That didn't fail. And so that sort of started me on the journey, making websites. I did that for a bit, and then I started selling things on websites, and then I jumped into social media and learned that I could buy social media pages way back when everybody saw everything that you posted on your pages. And I started buying loads and loads of Facebook pages up, got to 20 million fans and followers across a bunch of different social profiles. Quickly realized that it's really scary talking to 20 million people in a day, and you'll never keep everyone happy. The story I like to tell is I remember the first time I had this page, and it was 300,000 people on this particular page, and I went to do my very first post, and I was terrified. 300,000 people, what do you say? And I said, good morning. All right, I just wanted to test it out. Good morning. And I got an Australian guy go, it's evening here, asshole. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. I genuinely can't keep everybody happy. If something saying good morning
pisses someone off, huh?
To offend, right? So I learned a lot about speaking to people on the masses then. Graduated. Now I have the reach. Now I could get loads and loads of people onto a website. Crashed many a server by sending tons of people to it, thinking that the website could handle 6,000 people in a minute just coming on, things like that. Learned a lot about that. And then I just thought, well, I've got the people, I've got the traffic, now I need some products. And so I started getting into affiliate stuff, and then eventually got into e-commerce via Teespring. Sold, I probably sold enough t-shirts that there's some country somewhere that I could give every single person in the country a t-shirt from that. And then graduated into my own products. And so I've got I've gone through a bunch of e-commerce brands. I've got an e-commerce mastermind with some really, really smart people, and we all sort of collaborate on a daily basis. We've got luxury events with that business. And I've got a software company which designs software, like Trust Ads, Trust Message, and Trust Reach are our 3 softwares. And then in my spare time, if you like, we've got Smarter Destiny, which is this poster behind me. We're building an army of enlightened entrepreneurs. Basically, we want to teach people how to make money online but in an ethical way that actually leaves the world in a better place, rather than stepping on people to get rich. Like, you shouldn't get rich as a result of someone else getting poor.
Right.
And so that's what we teach with SmartDestiny. Through the podcast, we interview fabulous, amazing entrepreneurs like yourself, Ifat, and we learn their story. We learn why they do what they do, and so this book, which is what we're going to be talking about today, is the second book that I published under that brand, SmartDestiny, and it's 300 pages of my genuine best work to help the readers make more money from their digital business through leveraging the power of 1% incremental compounding gains. What a mouthful. Basically, it's 50 chapters covering in detail a different way that you can make more money. If you apply just like one chapter, you're going to make a ton more money. Apply 2 or 3, and we did the maths. 3 1% gains is something like 180% increase in revenue. It's crazy. And so what we're talking about today is how on earth I wrote that book.
So wait, before we dive into that, a lot of people, the reason why they write a book and the reason why they're doing a podcast and the reason why they're doing web shows is because they want to get that audience, right? They want to be in front of like 20 million people, and they think that if I have 20 million people, money just gonna fall from the trees and I don't have to do anything because they're just gonna buy everything that I sell. So let's talk about that a little bit, because you had the audience right ahead of time, and then you started creating products. What led to like, okay, let me now spend my time doing podcasts that for free, right? Where I'm just giving value and I'm not selling anything. Or let me write a book where I'm not making any profit. Let's talk about that for a second.
Sure. So I'm the guy that you're walking down the street, I'm walking down the street, and I hear someone say something, like they're expressing a problem that they've got. I'm the guy that can't keep quiet, right? I'm the guy that will be like, "Ooh, couldn't help it over here. Actually, have you tried this?" Right? And I get into trouble all the time for that. But I'm just, I just want to help. Like, if I can offer some kind of help, I get a good feeling from that, and that's what I do. And so there's a combination, really. So the book was, look, I've got a lot of things in my brain, and I want to get those things out of my brain. And we're in a really noisy world where there's gurus clogging up your news feed. People that can't teach, right? These kind of people that have figured out that they can make a lot more money by pretending they know what they're talking about and selling a course than anything else. And so I've got a ton of stuff in my brain, and I thought, what? I'm going to put it out in a book. A book's like a business card, and I'm going to get into. I'm touching on my presentation a little bit here, but a book's like a business card where you can kind of demonstrate that you actually know what you're talking about up front, and so I had a lot of stuff in my head. I wanted to just get it out. I discovered a way to get it out without actually having to manually type, which I'll touch on that, but I'm just terrible. It's my idea of torture. Make me type an essay if you want to get all my secrets, right? If that's the torture, that'll work so well for me. And so the book's for that.
So as you're typing your secrets, you're like, oh no, I don't want to do this. I'm typing this up.
And so, and the podcast, I just love just connecting with interesting people. Being an entrepreneur, particularly a digital entrepreneur, it's a lonely journey. And, I just love connecting with interesting people, hearing their stories. And so it's something that I would do for free. And there's not many things like in life where if you look inside yourself, go, would I do this completely for free? And the answer with this one was yes, which is really lucky because we don't actually monetize the podcast in any way. In fact, it cost me about, I don't know, $80 to $100 per episode to get it like edited and out there on the socials. But I just really enjoy doing it. I connect with great people, hear their story. We chat before and after the show about various bits and bobs. At the very least, I can travel to pretty much any country in the world, and there'll be someone there who I know who show me a local restaurant that's good or something. So it's all good.
Yeah. So before we dive into how Martyn created this, guys, if you actually want to come in, pick Martyn's brain in real time, this is the link. thatgeek.com/live. Hop on over and click the pink button right below the video, and you'll be able to come in and get all your questions answered as well. So before we start, I want to tell you guys about this book for a second, because we're going to show you how you can get your own free copy. But this is not a fluffy book. Even though, you might be like, wow, you didn't write a single word. How did that happen? And I really want to dive into that. But before we get in there, I want to share something with you that I really connected with when I started reading this. And it's because, Martyn, you've been in the internet marketing world since forever, it sounds. And I've been there since the beginning. And there's so many smoke and mirrors and so much fakeness and so much, scam, that I love this episode. Like, it's right there. It's not episode, right there in the introduction. You say, beware. Let me read that to you. He says, beware. If you're in the internet marketing space, it feels, let's stop. Our industry is broken, and it impacts you both as responsible business selling online and as a consumer purchasing online. Wherever you turn, there's a get-rich-quick solution, or take this pill and melt fat, or a 3-step overnight winning formula for happy marriage, and so on. So if you're in the internet marketing space, it feels worse. True. We're in the age of the guru. My newsfeed is clogged with people selling snake oil, sitting in rented Bentleys or Lamborghinis, displaying screenshots of failed businesses and telling you a quick solution to success. I sort of get it. I mean, unfortunately, as consumers, we might take people more seriously if they stood in front of a big, bright Ferrari next to their beautiful and extremely fake wife, I love that, or a swimming pool of $100 bills. We shouldn't fall for it, but we sometimes do. And then you went and created an ad where you filmed a silly video with a blue space hopper representing Big Blue, aka Facebook, and you bought $10,000 of fake staged $100 bills to create the shoot. So, and you said that ad went actually very well. So
yeah, it did.
It did. So I want to share a few things. One, the book is not fluffy. Two, there's a lot of BS out there, and both Martyn and I are aware of the BS. So what he's going to share with you today is not part of that. It's the part that you actually can take, implement, and get a book done. I think you got it done in let me see. I'm thatgeek.com/live. That's right. So it's not fake. It's all real. It's happening in real time. And you guys can come in and actually ask us any questions that you want, unscripted, and see whether or not we're full of it or we're giving you the real truth. So let's tell me a second about that ad with the fake money.
So as you said in the book, I was following along actually as you were reading that out loud. We see it all the time in our newsfeed, right? Someone in front of a yellow Ferrari, or with a bikini-clad woman, or a bunch of money, or whatever, going, "I'm awesome. Listen to me and buy my stuff." And I mean, that's not really me. And anyway, so I thought, right, do you know what? I've always used humor. I like humor. I think people take life too seriously, and so I enjoy
humor works. Yeah,
messing around. And so I was like, right, I'm gonna shoot something. I just did it in my kitchen. I had my fiance, then wife now, filming it. We'd set up some lights, and I'd sort of got an idea of what I was going to say in advance, like a little sort of storyboard, and it was sort of talking about how, we set up our ads and we think they're great, and then, Big Blue comes and nom 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 eats all our money. And so I had these fake dollar, like $100 bills, stage money. You can just look at it on Amazon, just type in like fake money, and you can get like wads of cash, which I'm sure some of the gurus know that already. So I had like a plate of money, and I had this blue space hopper representing Facebook, Big Blue, which is what people call it sometimes, and just sort of going nom nom nom, like eating the money. And so it was just a fun little thing. And then right at the end of the clip, I like sort of bounce off, and it's not a full-sized space hopper. This is a small space hopper. Like, I'm sort of bouncing off with like my radio mic sort of dangling like a tail behind me. And I mean, it was a lot of fun to shoot. It was funny. We ran it on Facebook, we ran it on YouTube, and I don't know, we got something, 750,000 views, something like that. And on YouTube as well, I think it hit something like a 40%. Like, it was shown as an advert, like, those annoying adverts on YouTube that you never want to watch. 40% of the people that saw it actually watched it, which was pretty cool, and suggested that maybe it wasn't, that irritating. But
it wasn't, and actually, I think if you guys actually want to go see it, go check out, I'll put that in the comments below. So let's dive.
I'm glad you've got a link to it because I don't even know where it is right now. But
Yeah, I did a little search on YouTube and I was like, oh, I need to see what that fake money looked like. So let's dive into how do you self-publish a book before we self-publishing, right? How do you write it, right? And how do you get Kevin Harrington to give you an introduction and all that good stuff? So share your screen and we'll dive in. And guys, again, if you want to join us in real time, thatgeek.com/live and we'll get to see you. And Martyn, off to you. There we go.
Okay. So thank you very much for that introduction. So yeah, so this book, this presentation is called How to Write a Best-Selling Book Without Actually Writing a Word. And if you're just listening to the audio of this, the first write is in like little bunny air quote things, because I didn't write a single word, and we're going to get into that. So in this training, there's me holding the book. I look very happy about it as well, actually. I should probably get a photo that smiles. So how to write a 300-page book. Where am I going? Just get control of my computer here. There we go. How to write a 300-page book without actually writing a single word. And I'm going to tell you how I actually created this book during dead time. So it wasn't actually like additional time strain on my day. I'm going to show you how I leveraged dead time to actually write this book. I'm going to go through how I landed Kevin Harrington as a foreword. So he's one of the original sharks on Shark Tank, worth for like, his companies are responsible for something like $20 billion in revenue, something ridiculous. The guy is a smart, successful dude. How we managed to sign up over 300 people just in the pre-launch, and how, ultimately we sold thousands of copies at a profit. And so, and by the way, at any point, this link is a special link that I made for you guys, smartdestiny.com/geek, and that will actually take you into the book funnel where you can actually get yourself a free copy of the book. All I ask is that you kick in a little bit for shipping, because genuinely the book itself, cost a fair amount of money. It did take some time to produce, and just shipping it alone, particularly if you're in somewhere like Australia or the US, actually costs me more than I charge for shipping even. So it genuinely is, the book is free, just cover the cost of shipping, or almost cover the cost of shipping. So why write a book? Okay, well, first off, it proves that you know your stuff. And so this, by the way, this image on the right is actually a business card looking, and it's just at the right angle that it kind of looks 3D, but it's not. It's a business card that looks like a book, okay? And the reason I'd use that photo is because I like to look at books nowadays as business cards. As I said before jumping into this presentation, a book is like a business card in this noisy age where everyone's going, I'm the expert, I'm the best. When you kind of just throw down a book and just say, hey, take a look at that, skim through it, use it to, wedge your table so that it doesn't go wonky. It's not rocky. Use the book however you want, right? I've already written this. This is my best work. I'm very proud of it. Give it a read. If any of it resonates with you, then let's talk, okay? Like if I was selling my services, I don't sell my services as a consultant, but it's more, I've got a lot of stuff that I want to put out there to help people, and I know that I know that my intentions are genuine. I know that other people's aren't necessarily genuine. So I've got a book where it's like, hey, your risk is like $6 for shipping. You're going to hold a 300-page book in your hand. I know it's genuinely good. We've had hundreds of positive reviews come in from it now, which really does confirm that. And at least then you might sort of go, actually, this kind of makes a lot of sense. So also, why you might want to write a book is it's actually a challenge, and people respect that. Okay, to get to the point where you actually have a published book that people can hold in their hands is impressive, and books as a result have quite a high perceived value there as well. I mean, let's face it, it's just ink on paper, but it's the condensed knowledge of like a decade of learning, right? Typically books are like at least a decade of experience in there. If you go onto the Amazon bestseller list or something. And so, it's got value because you can learn a lot, and you can very, very quickly learn, catch up and learn so much just by reading. I'm an avid reader. It's great for lead generation if that's your business. It doesn't matter what kind of business you run. If you're an expert and you're positioning yourself as an expert, having a book will definitely help you in that. It doesn't matter what the niche is, demonstrating up front that you know what you're talking about and you've published a book on it really does position you as an expert, and thus you can leverage that for lead generation. And of course, all of that content that you put together in the book is yours, and you can repurpose that over and over. What I mean is you can record videos on the chapters, you can publish blog posts that are the chapters, you can take little excerpts, you can chat about it with people, you can do all kinds of stuff. So pretty cool. Right, so that's why I'd suggest writing a book is quite a cool thing to do. And then I know we went through it a little bit, but just so you know who the heck I am, because we haven't met, here's a blurry photo of me on stage. Basically, I've built and scaled and exited multiple 6- and 7-figure e-commerce stores. I've coached thousands of students on advertising, e-commerce entrepreneurship across 38 countries, spoken from stages across multiple continents, and personally spent more than $5 million on Facebook advertising alone. And my company, TrustAds.io, my software, TrustAds.io, it's it's an automation tool that helps you get more profit out of your advertising while spending less time. And through our clients there, we've managed over $100 million in advertising spend. So we've got a fair amount of data on selling online. Okay, so that's a little bit about me. And here is my first book. Okay, so in 2017, I actually wrote a book. And once again, I'm using those air quotes. And the reason I'm using those air quotes is because whilst it was a good book, it was very short. And that was because I wrote it, and I hate writing. I'm not a manual dude. And I discovered on this journey with this book, which I told everybody I was going to write, and so I had to absolutely do it. I hated every second. I was trying to find just a spare bit of time in my busy day to sort of churn out a chapter. And it was so much effort. It wasn't really even a book. It was like a pamphlet. It had probably 50 pages. You could read it in about an hour and a half. And by the time I'd written what I just decided was the final chapter, I didn't even want to proofread it. I was so fed up of writing. And so I released it as a PDF. And I just gave away that PDF for free to my list. And then for an entire year, I just felt regret. I just felt absolute regret that was not my best work. If people were judging me by that first book, it wasn't my best work, right? I wasn't proud of it at all. And so I was like, well, I want to do something about it. And so the link to this first book is at the bottom of the screen. It's the digital download. If you want to see it, as I said, it's good. It's just short, okay? And it took a tremendous amount of effort. And so what I decided to do was do something about it. I don't know, no, it's just an image. I was wondering if that was a video, actually. So I decided to do something about it. I wasn't happy with the book. I wanted to create something truly awesome. I wanted to produce something that was absolutely my best work. And that's hard nowadays, right? To just put a label on something and say, that's my best work. It gives you no point, right? If someone tells you that it's bad, you can't sort of hide behind, well, I wasn't trying that hard. I tried hard, right? It's my best work, okay? And so I wanted to produce something that I was proud of, right? But as we know, I hated writing. I've mentioned that once or twice already, okay? I knew from the first book it was a struggle from start to finish, and I knew what the outcome would be if I decided to write a second book in exactly the same way that I wrote the first one, okay? All manual and stuff. So I started researching, all right? I knew the problem wasn't having the information in my brain. I knew I had the information in my brain, but I just didn't have the time or the inclination to actually, use a keyboard and write that information down into a form of a book. So I started researching ways to write a book without actually needing to write a book, okay? And so I was sort of thinking along the lines of maybe I can get Siri on my side, Siri, the iPhone assistant. Maybe Siri will help me out. But that wasn't the solution. But I did actually find the solution, okay? And it was frustrating. It took a long time to search, but I did find the solution. And that's kind of lucky, because now I can actually present to you guys the start to finish way that I managed to publish a 300-page book. So are you guys ready for this? I can only see one actual face. So Stuart, give me a thumbs up. Are you ready for this? Yes, Stuart is. I love your hat, Stuart. And M. Masana Bria is also ready for this. Fantastic. Thanks, guys. Thank you. I love it when I get a thumbs up. I appreciate that. Right. So where to start? Okay. So first off, this image is a digital image. Whoa. I'm going to get into how you can actually mock up things like this. It looks pretty real, doesn't it? But that was actually a digital mock up of the book. But the reason I'm showing a digital mock up at this point is because at this point, I knew I wanted to write a book, but I didn't even have the answer to a simple question like, how thick should the book be, right? Something where you just assume, okay, well, I'm just going to write until I'm done. But actually, it was important to me that my book was thick. I wanted to get loads and loads of lots of information there, but I didn't want it to be too thick that it like went into the next postal bracket. Okay, what I mean, they're like shipping brackets. And so in the UK, where I knew I'd be shipping it from, the thickness of a large letter, okay, which is what the Royal Mail Postal Service defines as, by thickness, is 2.5 centimeters, okay, which is about an inch. A large letter is 2.5 centimeters. So I was like, right, I need to write a book which is as close to 2.5 centimeters, but not over in terms of depth as possible. And so, I'm like, wow, that's not something that Google can help you with, by the way, folks. So, I've got a good bookshelf. I looked at all the books on there. I went to a local library and I looked at similar sized books to figure out how many pages makes up 2.5 centimeters. And so all that searching, you guys don't need to do the searching now because I can tell you the answer. I found that about 300 pages was the sweet spot. And if you really want to geek out on it, it's the name of the show, it's at something like 100 GSM, right, which is the thickness of the paper, right? And it seemed that of those 300-page books that I was looking at, most of them had around about 50 chapters. And that also seemed about right to me. 50 sounds like a good number in terms of chapters and in terms of information. And so there it was. There's the maths of what I'm setting out to do. And this is important. I'm setting out to write a 300-page book with 50 chapters. Okay, so 300 pages. We can assume, as you can see on the right-hand side, that every chapter heading page, about half of it's going to be, like the title and an image and a quote. So I can minus 25 of those pages because they're basically blank. I can minus another 25 pages because I had images throughout. So really, I'm writing 250 pages. Okay, so that number's coming down, and which is important to me because, to be honest, looking at 100,000 words sounds really, really scary. Okay. So now I'm only writing 250 pages. I Googled quickly online and found that an average page has about 300 words. I also counted some, that's 5 minutes of my life I'm never going to get back, but I actually counted words on a page in some books that I had to make sure. And so I realized that if I'm writing 250 pages, each page has 300 words on it. It's about 75,000 words. And if I'm going to write 50 chapters, that means 1,500 words per chapter. Are you guys following on with the maths? Did you expect?
I did not expect this at all. I was like, you write a book, you never think about like how long it needs to be, how heavy it needs to be for shipping, how many words in every chapter. Like, I just thought, okay, I'll just write the chapters and whatever happens.
Yeah, and that's how I approached the first book. And so I was like, I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to use some kind of logic behind this, all right? And so remember, I was doing all my research. I was searching online, and I found a way to write a book without writing a book. And you probably guessed this, folks. But what I discovered was that you can dictate your entire book, okay? And when I was learning this, I also learned that you can actually speak, and of course we know this, but you can speak much faster than you can write, okay? So like a really good secretary nowadays who types every day might write maybe 90 words per minute, okay? Something like that. You can speak without too much effort, 150 words per minute, okay? And so each chapter, I told you a minute ago, each chapter we're aiming at 1,500 words. It means that 1,500 words can be dictated in just 10 minutes, okay? So each chapter, I can actually write it in 10 minutes, right? And so if you're dictating it, then what dictating means is obviously speaking into a microphone, and then you can get that transcribed, which means getting that sound clip into words again. Someone else can do that, right? That's what I figured. Someone else can transcribe the recording, because that sounds like a lot of work to me and something that I don't want to do.
So Martyn, quick question. When did you write the book? How many years ago?
Oh, this book was, I think it came out the end of last year, maybe December time, 2018.
Okay, so we now have AI that basically transcribes it, right? Pretty cheaply, 10 cents a minute. And so you write an entire chapter in 10 minutes, sends it to an AI, they transcribe it in a minute, cost you 10 minutes, cost you $1. So you get, so the cost of creating 50 chapters is $50, and your time, if you will.
Nice. Well, so I'm going to go into how I did that, and
let's do it.
I used a slightly more expensive option, but the AI option sounds great. But anyway, so I was like, okay, so this sounds really cool. I can dictate my entire book, but let's just sanity check this for a second. Why should you dictate? Okay, well, number one for me is you don't need to type because I said I hate typing. If you're not typing, you don't need a keyboard. Okay, so now you don't really need to be in front of your computer. So now you can produce a book without being in front of a physical computer. Fantastic. Dictation only needs a microphone, and you've got one of those on your phone, so you can technically do it on the phone. You can talk much faster than you can type. You can talk whilst doing other things, and this is important because essentially, if you're able to talk whilst doing other things, like talk and walk would be an example, right? You can potentially write your book during otherwise dead time, which in my case, I looked at the sort of things that I'm doing each day, and in my case, it was whilst walking my dog, Winston. Okay, and so meet Winston. He's a pug Pomeranian. I wanted a dog which had a little bit more of a snout than a pug, but I love pugs. And I love walking him, right? It's something that I'll never outsource. I'm never going to pay someone to walk my dog. I enjoy it. Okay, I love walking Winston, and often I'll use the time whilst I'm walking him to listen to podcasts or make calls. Okay, I walk him every day, usually for at least 40 minutes. Therefore, if each chapter could be dictated in 10 minutes, potentially I could churn out 4 chapters per walk, right? Meaning that in 13 dog walks, technically, I could dictate my entire 300-page book, right? Pretty cool, okay? So that was the dead time that I'd identified. Other dead time could be in the shower. It could be whilst you're cooking. It could be whilst you're cleaning. It could be whilst you're shopping, all kinds of times, whilst you're driving, whilst you're traveling. There's plenty of times where you can talk if you just, got a microphone, like Bluetooth headset.
I love it. And you know what's funny is, like, if you do not have a dog, this will get you in shape. So you can actually start finding reason that, like, if you needed a reason to start walking and going the distance, writing a book might be it.
Yeah, I should maybe add that to the presentation, like how I dictated a 300-page book and lost
Exactly.
So let's jump into planning your book. Okay, so we've got a basic idea of how to do it. And so basically the first thing you need to figure out is what topic are you an expert on, okay? And understand that expert doesn't mean what you think it might, or what you might think it means. Expert means just knowing at least a little bit more than others. Okay, if you know just a little bit more than the average person about something, that actually, by definition, makes you an expert because you're in the minority of people that know that much. Okay, so don't stress out about I'm not qualified to write a book. You can always add to your existing experience and knowledge with plenty of research. Okay. Then you want to be asking yourself, will your chosen topic add enough value to others that they will pay money for it? Okay, there's niches out there which just, it's unlikely that you're going to get money for it. You do need to recover your costs. Okay, you need to recover your costs on producing the book. There's going to be some time and a little bit of spend, and so you need to be able to get some money back at least for it. You need to ask yourself, will your topic solve customer problems? It's really good if your book actually solves problems. Most books out there kind of do, even if it's the problem of not feeling tired or the problem of needing entertainment. Okay, is there enough of a market to buy your book? Okay, basically what I'm describing here is niche selection, which I actually cover in this video. It's on my YouTube channel. That little link down below, which you can screenshot the screen or something, will take you straight to that YouTube video. Okay, and it basically goes into niche selection and how to find a great niche. All right, so now we jump into chapter ideas. And so remember, I wanted to do 50 chapters, okay? And so I started just by noting down my ideas that I had, right? This book is a book on e-commerce. It talks about how to scale your e-commerce business past 7 figures in revenue, okay? Because I've done that a few times and I know what I'm talking about, right? So I was noting down ideas about traffic and sales and conversions and all kinds of stuff. I'm just scribbling it down. I'm not filtering. I'm just writing it all down on a piece of paper, okay? I'm looking at chapters in other books, right, in my niche. So I'm looking at e-commerce books. You can jump onto Amazon. They'll give you a preview of what's in the contents. And I'm getting inspired by the kind of things that are written in other books. I'm searching on blog articles to see what those articles, like the topics of them. I'm looking on YouTube for videos in my niche to see what those topics, those videos are on. I'm looking at reviews on Amazon. This isn't so good for my niche, but it's great for other niches. You can look at products that the people in your niche are buying and then look at reviews on those products to see why people are liking those products, okay? And you might be inspired for chapter ideas there. So start scribbling them down. or dictating them, and aim for about 75 ideas, 75 plus ideas, because you're going to filter some out later. All right. So I wanted 50, so I aimed at 75. And then what you want to do is you want to get those chapters and sort them by theme. Okay, so this is like the first part of the contents for the book that we're talking about, which is linked at the bottom, smartdestiny.com/geek. And you can see that, so scaling, the lie we've been told, crystallizing your vision, tightening your target, and so on. Those are my chapter ideas, right? Well, actually, they're the final chapters. And I started sort of grouping them by theme. Okay, so all of the ideas that I had that kind of relate to scaling, I put them under a scaling heading. All the ones related to brand building, I put under brand building, all to targeting, and so on. Okay, and so I've now got 7 themes in my book. Actually, I think it's 8 because there's more on the other side of this content page. And I've sorted the chapters under it. Okay, and so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get a similar number of chapters under each theme. And I'm trying to ensure that when you combine all of those themes, you're creating a really good framework that solves the problems of your target customers. Okay, and so this is just a scribble exercise, folks. It's really not as complicated as I'm probably making it sound, but you're scribbling down ideas of things that you could write about and then putting them under these headings. Okay, so now you're probably thinking, right, okay, so I've got these ideas for chapters. How do I talk about that chapter for 10 minutes? Okay, so I'm dictating, I want 1,500 words. I know that's going to take me about 10 minutes. How do I even get started? Okay, because you're out and about now, you're walking your dog, you've got your phone out, or you've got Bluetooth headphones in like I did, and now you've got the challenge of talking for 10 minutes, which goes really quickly, but you do need something to talk about. So this is how I structured just about every chapter in my book. First part of the chapter, I talked about a story that demonstrates the talking points of the chapter. Okay, humans learn through stories, right? If I start telling you the way you increase your conversion rate on your store is you do a split test on this, you're going to zone out. If I tell you about my friend Justin, who did an experiment for one of his clients, he jumped in and he got frustrated, and then he tried this, and then accidentally found that by changing the button color, it's a bit more engaging because humans learn through stories. So I started every single chapter with a story that's going to demonstrate my talking points. Next up, I then jumped into a section on actionable advice. Now that I've engaged my reader with a story, now I'm talking about actionable advice. Now I'm saying, hey, so maybe you can check out some split tests. Maybe you can play with color or font, or look at this, or look at your competitors, or try out this, or that. Right? Actionable advice relating to the story that users can actually apply to their business, because a story is great, but also users want action points that they can actually use in their business and apply. Then the next bit of the chapter is a recap. It's merging the story and the actionable advice together, and so thus, just like we learned with Justin when he was testing the things, that when he did that, and that's why I'm advising this. Okay, simple. It's a recap. And then finally, this isn't something that I necessarily like, but when I did research, I found that actually quite a high percentage of people enjoy at the end of a chapter in the book having some homework, some action points. So go away, do your research, look at 10 sites in your niche, that kind of stuff, like a bit of homework, some checkpoints to really cement the knowledge. And it makes a lot of sense. And so I finished up most of my chapters with some action points, if it made sense, for how they could apply the teachings of the chapter. So now I've broken 10 minutes down into 4 points. So now each point's just 2.5 minutes, right? Now we're really, really getting short. 2.5 minutes is what, like 150 seconds, okay? It's not very long. And so let me apply this chapter structure to a weird niche. Let's apply it to dog haircuts, right? A book on dog haircuts, okay? So that we can practice what we preach here, okay? So remember, we want to start with a story. So one chapter might be a story about how or about when I accidentally dyed a poodle green. Whoops, I haven't done that. This is a Google image. This isn't like my handiwork, and I've snapped a photo of it, and the pissed off owners in the background going, God, it's dyed my poodle green. So I can start my chapter about a story about when I accidentally dyed a poodle green. Now I can give some advice about being careful about choosing dyes, learn from my mistakes, about choosing the hair dye and mixing them properly. And then I can recap about the story and the advice, the first 2 points. And then I can give some homework to research whether the preferred dyes that you're using to dye your dogs include certain ingredients or whatever. I know nothing about dyeing dogs' haircuts. I would never do that, but this is an example if you were writing this book, okay? Now, so you've got 4 points written down, bullet pointed out, so that you can speak about it on your, in your dead time period. but maybe you're like, Martyn, I could do with a couple more points. All right, fine. Let's flesh it out even further. So point one, we've got a story about when I accidentally dyed a poodle green, and a couple of bullet points here about what I would talk about. So in the story, I'm going to cover the day of the week, the location, the time, how I was feeling, how it's a long shift, I accidentally grabbed the wrong dye, the customer was so angry. Okay, so now I fleshed out that point one into 4 little sub-points. Advice about being careful about choosing dyes and mixing them properly. Check the label, be careful of a certain ingredient and why. Then we got the recap. What was I thinking about when I was working? Why we should try and avoid the angry customers, and then the homework. Okay, so I've just fleshed it out so that we've already got it down to 2.5 minutes per point on average, as in terms of talking. But if that's still daunting, we can add some little sub points, and you'll find that you talk way more than 10 minutes.
So Martyn, a quick question about that one. So you're writing all these things down, and you're kind of like brainstorming before you go on the walk, and then you carry that like piece of paper with you, and you talk about it as you dictate as you walk.
Pretty much. So I use an app called Evernote. I love Evernote. I'm an avid Evernoter. It's an app that you can access online, on your computer, on your phone, and when you write a note, it's on all of those devices like instantly, and you can share notes and stuff. And so that's where I scribble my bullet points. But yeah, I was going out.
You're all digital.
4 bullet points. yeah, I was going out. So I had my AirPods in and my phone ready with these 4 bullet points. And then I would attack it. And what I used, you talked about AI, which is great, much better than this, but I used Revcom's app. So Revcom is a transcribing service that I've used. Their accuracy is phenomenal in terms of, actually interpreting my British accent and writing the words that I intend them to say. Of course, there's a few words as well which were intended for my dog, like "there's a good boy, what a good poo you've just done," and "don't sniff that person's leg," and so on. But the majority of what I was saying, of course, was for the book. So I use Rev.com. They charge $1 per minute of transcribing. They're very accurate. And I use their app because the second you finish recording, you can just send it to them instantly, and they send you back your transcription pretty quickly. You could alternatively just use like an audio recording app on your phone and then separately upload it to your whatever service you use, your transcribing service. So I use the bullet point notes on my phone for reference. Rev.com would then transcribe the audio, and then you can set it up so it sends it to a Dropbox folder. Okay, so they send it to a Dropbox folder. I share that Dropbox folder with my colleague. So in my case, the person who was writing up this transcription was my head of marketing, Grace, because I'll get into that. She basically wrote up the transcription, removed the things which were clearly intended for my dog, removed the ums and the ahs and the, what the hell am I talking about today? What was that last thing? All of the stuff where it's not meant for the book. She wrote that up in Google Docs so I can monitor along. Google Docs, multiple people can read it at the same time. And for me, the bonus of getting her to do it rather than just paying someone for Upwork or finding any kind of proofreader, copywriter, book editor, all of these professions can easily do this job, right? They're just proofreading what's being transcribed and making it nice. The bonus for me was she learned all about e-commerce marketing at the same time that she was producing the book for me, right? So I'm giving her training. My staff is, my member of staff is now smarter. Okay. And then the next thing, so once we've got it on Google Docs, she's then graduating to Scrivener. So Scrivener is a word processor specifically for book writing. So it's like Microsoft Word or Google Docs, but specifically for word writing. I'm not going to get into this too much. YouTube is your friend if you have any questions about it. It's really intuitive, but the point of Scrivener is that when you've produced your book on it, it outputs your book into the various different formats that you'll need across the web for creating an ebook or creating a PDF or creating a physical manuscript. You only have to then make your book once, and then you can what's known as compile it into different formats. Okay, and so any question that you might have on Scrivener has been answered on YouTube. Okay, so that's why I say YouTube is your friend. That, and it's a short presentation. So now we've got a book. And now we need to pre-launch that book by building hype. So I recommend Kartra as the funnel builder. Okay, so Kartra is like ClickFunnels. It's a bit cheaper and I prefer it personally. There's a link below, smartdestiny.com/funnel builder, which will take you to Kartra, where you can try it out. I think it's like 2 weeks for free or something like that. But basically, in my pre-launch, I created a simple lead capture form. And then I jumped onto social media and told as many people as I could that my book's coming out and things that I was excited about, and the chapter that I just finished writing. I didn't tell, obviously, I wasn't saying dictated at that point. The chapter I just written, and what it was about and why I was excited about it. I was just talking about it, okay? And so I create this quick form where I collect their name, the phone, and the email. I recommend collecting phone numbers as well. Because it might be that you want to call up these pre-launch people or text them or something when you actually launch. Okay, so you might as well grab that. But essentially, if you are going to do it like me, which is actually giving away free copies, then it's quite a strong, compelling reason, right? Like, claim your free copy. Okay, like, I've just spent all this time writing a book. I'm going to give it to you for free. That's a really, really strong, compelling reason for someone to fill out the form.
Martyn, hold on a second. So, quick question. Are you releasing chapter by chapter to those people, or are you waiting until your entire book is done and then you're sending it to them?
Oh, no. So I'm just talking. So I'm telling as many people that I've got a book coming out. Okay. And so that gets old real fast. Like, hey, guys, I've got a book coming out. Hey, guys, I've got a book coming out. It gets old real fast.
Right.
So if you're looking for things that you can, fresh ways to tell people you've got a book coming out, you can say, hey, I've just finished writing another chapter for my book that is coming out on blah, blah. I'm really excited about this chapter because it tells you blah, 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 blah. Right. And so, now you've got 50 chapters. That's potentially 50 different posts you could do, which are all fresh and unique and compelling and point to your lead capture form. I didn't do anywhere near as many posts as that. I probably should have. But
time and life and,
Yeah, exactly. Life. And I couldn't do that on dog walks, that one. So now I've pre-launched it. Now, you're writing your book, and during this period, you also want to keep in the back of your mind that maybe you want a foreword. Okay, so a foreword's a really, really talented expert person that's kind of in the field and topic of the book, who writes about themselves and their successes, and then applies it to your book. Okay, so Kevin Harrington, super this. He teaches and mentors entrepreneurs. He loves, teaching entrepreneurs to give more than you get, and he can see that through the words written in this book by Martyn, right? Okay, as an example, right? So that's how a foreword is typically structured. It's completely optional but recommended. If you're looking to get a foreword, ideally that person should be impressive and influential because they'll actually help you sell more copies. They should be relevant to the topic as well. It would have been no good to me to get like a professional footballer because what do they know about digital marketing? So what you want to do is just research people that match that criteria online. Make a list of your dream 50 people that's in your, that you could maybe just about reach and get hold of, and then contact them, which really sounds scary, but it's not. In fact, I love LinkedIn for this because on LinkedIn you can find everybody, and at the very least you can send them a connection request with a message, and also on their website they'll have contact forms, and just stay focused. And if you want to contact 50 people, break it down to at least 10 people per day. And then when you're reaching out to them, just reach out to it's a very short message, brief message, compliment them about something that they've done, they've produced that you like, right? And keep the message to the point. And remember that it's an honor to be asked to be a foreword. Right? So it's not as hard as you think. You're not really asking them for a favor. You're going to be selling however many copies of your book, and your book is positioning them even more as an expert because they're the foreword on your book. So remember, it's not actually a tremendous, inconvenience for them. At this point, each person that you reach out to who responds will have different questions, and so you just need to answer them as best as possible and as honestly as possible. And then if you get yourself in a nice but difficult situation where you've got multiple people from your Dream 50 saying yes, giving you yeses, yes, I'd like to be a foreword, just, be brutal and pick the best person for the job. And you could even be a little bit unconventional like I was and actually have two forewords. So in addition to Kevin Harrington as a foreword on my book, I also have this guy by the name of Xavier De Petter, who is a phenomenally successful guy. He was one of the 25 smartest teens on the planet, named by Forbes, and he was Times Magazine's 30 under 30. I think I've muddled those two magazines up, but he's an impressive dude, but he hasn't got the notoriety and influence that Kevin Harrington has yet. But I wanted him on my book, so I had 2 forewords. And so that's how I got Kevin Harrington.
Yeah, so quick question. So, what's the benefit of you? I mean, are you just tying your name into Kevin Harrington's name and by having him as a forward on your book? Like, what's the real value behind it?
So these forewords, these people will, you're sending them a copy of your manuscript, right? So they're not going to just apply their name to anything, that's rubbish, okay? And so the point of a foreword is that it's someone who's very, very influential that's giving their stamp of approval and recommendation in writing on your book, okay? And so that's a big deal, okay? If because someone goes, well, Martyn, I don't really know who you are. You say it's good, but of course you're going to. Now he's saying, well, actually, Kevin Harrington says it's good, right? Like, and here it is. Now that's suddenly quite interesting.
Gotcha. So it's kind of like almost like borrowing authority from other people in your niche that they're saying like, yeah, he's not the only one saying he's great. I actually vetted him and he is great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so it's a little bit of extra effort, but it's tremendously valuable. And again, throughout this link at the bottom, smartdestiny.com /geek, if you want to actually check out the book funnel, grab yourself a free copy of the book so that you can actually see the book and see what we're talking about. So then testimonials. Okay, so testimonials help sell your book as well. And I've got a lot of testimonials, which actually I haven't got round to putting them on the website, which is terrible. But I've got a lot of testimonials, but they came from contacting trusted people, both before I'd published and after I'd published, and asking them if they'd like a free copy of my book in exchange for a review, shipping them a copy. In some way, whether it's a physical copy or a digital copy. Okay, before you've got the physical copies available, you have to send them a PDF. I was really uncomfortable doing that because it only takes one person to leak that and then your book's out there in the world for free. And so I recommend using a free watermarking service, just Google it, before sending and putting a unique watermark on each PDF that you send out, okay, with the name of the person you're sending it to in this watermark. And so then if it does leak out, you know exactly who leaked it and they're probably less likely to leak it, okay? Or you can send them a physical copy. Even if it's printed out on paper, you can send them a physical copy because they're not going to just scan that in and put that online. No one's got time for that.
I love that. That is super smart because it's kind of like showing the people, showing the person that like if they're sharing it, their name will be out there and that's like, an immediate smear or immediate preventer from them of doing anything shady. That's really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then make sure you follow up with each person, right? Every person that you've gone to the effort of sending a copy to, right? Make sure you follow up with them so that you can at least get to the point where they've either given you a testimonial or they've said no, right? They're super busy, right? People need prompting, but if in the first part they've said, yes, I'm happy to read your book and give you a testimonial on it if I like it, then, at the very least they can do is say, here's a testimonial, or sorry, I can't give it to you because I'm just too busy. But at least get to that point. It's very easy just to go, I don't want to trouble them and go dark. And, they're unlikely to reach out to you. So you need to be vigilant because testimonials, again, they're recommendations that people pay attention to, your customers will pay attention to. Woo! And then finally, selling your book. Okay, so what you want to be doing is you want to be on your sales page, leveraging your foreword and your testimonials. You want to be showing off the book structure that we've already written and telling them a little bit about who you are and why you wrote the book. You can get a bit fancy like I did and record a video. I very much recommend watching that video as well, folks. The link below will take you to that page eventually because actually I go through some really, really cool maths where just improving your business just by 1%. And I go through an typical e-commerce flow where people click on your ad, they go to your website, they buy something, and hopefully they come back and buy again. I go through this process and actually do the maths on if you improve just one or two of the steps by just 1%, a tiny amount, one person out of 100, how it actually results in an extra 180% revenue. It's absolutely nuts, the compounding effect. So I would highly recommend looking at that. But on this page, essentially, you're showing your foreword, your testimonials, your book structure, who you are, why you wrote the book. Again, I recommend Kartra for doing this. It makes it really, really easy. Okay, it's a drag and drop website maker. And that's what I use. There, you can get it there. And what it allows you to do is to put in upsells like after the sales page, which, you know, a certain amount of your audience may want to learn from you in a different way. And so I run live calls every 2 Mondays. I call them expert calls. I get awesome people in like Ifat and countless others. I think we've got something like 40 hours of content now in our archives because we've been doing it for over 1.5 years. I offer that in my upsell and say, like, hey, if you want a little bit more than my words in a book, you can come and join me live. Okay. And so a certain percentage of people also decide to take that offer, which again helps balance out the costs that I've incurred. Because ultimately I want to just get this copy into the hands of like every digital marketer, every digital entrepreneur out there. But if I was to do that on my own, I'd be bankrupt. And so my goal is to get it into as many hands as possible without losing money. I'm not actually so bothered about the profit. I believe if you put enough value out there in the world, it'll come back to you at some point. No sweat. So I link Kartra. This is the other reason for it. I link Kartra to a Shopify store on like a free plan, which I use as my like back end. Okay, that's my CRM. That's where I can see the orders, and Shopify links to like absolutely everything, which is great. The other reason I like Kartra is you can set up like an affiliate program so that other people can recommend your book and get a bit of commission for doing so. But yeah, I would encourage you to model your funnel on mine, right? And so the link is below. You can just go through it, right? You can go through it as a customer and see, screenshot each page, see where I position things. I'm not saying it's the best funnel in the world, but it's pretty good. It's served me well. And then some extras. So if you've ever done like a video online or a talk or some kind of screen share or anything like that, don't forget, you can transcribe that talk, right? And turn that into a chapter. And then if in that talk you're talking about, say, slides or anything, that's up on the screen or whatever, you can just take screenshots of that and include that in the chapter as images. And so one of the chapters in the book is literally a talk that I did in Vancouver called How to Sell Over $2 Million Worth of Leggings. I think that's what it's called. And so I did that live in Vancouver in front of an audience, but then I just took the video, uploaded that to Revcom, got it transcribed, and then had my staff member just put in photos where, screenshots of the presentation at the times where it made sense to, when I'm like saying, look, you can see from the screen, that you put that in there. You can show off what your book looks like long before you've got a physical book. And the way you do that is you go onto Google and you search for book mockup PSD, which is means Photoshop files. And so there's free things on there where all you need is a cover. You put the cover into it, you drop it into that, and it makes like a book mockup. This stack of books over here on the right hand side of the screen, that's a digital mockup of my book. Okay, the one that I'm holding in my hand, that's a real book. In fact, that's not a real book. It is a real physical thing that I'm holding in my hands, but actually I got that from the book printer, and it's 300 blank pages at that point because I hadn't finished the book, but I needed something to hold. Oh, showbiz and the secrets, hey? And so that's essentially it. But if you want any more info, you can always email me at martyn@smartdestiny.com. And what I'll do is those kind of questions, I'll take that as learnings and may well even produce some videos on it if enough people want to learn a little bit more. So my final slide here, my gift to you, we've talked about it all the way through. I'd encourage you to pick up a copy of the book. It's free, just cover shipping costs, or almost all of the shipping costs. It's like $6. You're going to get a 300-page, highly reviewed, highly recommended, Kevin Harrington Foreword book that I'm extremely proud of, and I dictated whilst walking the dog over about 13 to 15 separate dog walks.
I love it. So before we dive into audience questions, and if you guys have some questions, Martyn, stop sharing your screen. And if you guys have some questions, let me know, and we will we'll grab. And but I'm going to ask you questions, and let's see if you can give me like a 30 seconds answer for that, so that we can kind of cover all the self-publishing. So is Scrivener, is that the self-publishing? Is that the way to self-publish?
Scrivener is a way of producing a book in a format that enables you to then publish that book. Whether you're publishing that book on Amazon, or whether you're sending it to a book publisher, or wherever it is, they require it in a certain file, not just like .doc, like a Word document. And so Scrivener enables you to output that book. You write it once, you put it in there once, and you can output it as an EPUB or a PDF or a other one that I forget the name of, output.
Okay, so let's talk about what is self-publishing. What does that mean?
So self-publishing means, rather than getting in touch with a publishing company, right, one of those guys that gets, one of those companies that gets hundreds of book submissions every day and treats you like, dirt. Self-publishing means actually putting copies of a book out into the world, off using your own energy and resources. And so in my case, self-publishing meant taking my book, reaching out, doing, phoning up some local print houses, book printers in the UK, because I wanted to actually, you can do it through Amazon, right? You can do it through, you can upload it on there, and they'll handle all the printing and all of the shipping out. What I wanted to do was I wanted to fulfill it locally, so that I could just be a little bit more hands-on. These books go out in paper envelopes, right? Not plastic packaging, right? There's no plastic. Go out in paper, environmentally friendly envelopes. I try as much as I can to sign, each copy. I like that personal touch. It takes me an extra 30 seconds, but I try and do that. And so I can't do that if I do it through Amazon. So the way I did it, I phoned up these book printing companies and got a good price. And then they send you a bunch of samples, typically. You pick one, you haggle with them as much as you possibly can. And then you end up with a box with like the minimum quantity. I think it's like 100, 150 or something. The more you order, the cheaper it gets. But my first order, I think, was about 150 books. You get a ginormous thing. The postman hates your guts because 150 books is really heavy. They're like, what did I do to deserve this? And then, you've got the books and you can just ship it out. As I said, Shopify integrates with like every shipping service. In my case, it was with Royal Mail, but you could integrate with like FedEx, DHL, USPS, like whoever your shipping company is, you can do it that way. Or if you don't care about the personal touch, you could literally just upload it to Amazon, loads of YouTube videos on that. And then if someone orders a digital copy on Amazon, you can give it to them. They order a physical copy. Amazon will physically print it out and ship it to that customer.
So that brings us to kind of like, what are the best self-publishing companies out there, and are there any self-publishing companies that you should avoid?
That's a hard one for me to answer. I use a company called Book Printers UK, which are in the UK, and they print books.
Surprise!
And they were the best ones I found. Their customer service was fantastic. I even had them because I really wanted photos of my book, and I couldn't wait 2 days for them to ship it to me. I actually had one of their guys. I said, "Hey, you've got the book. Before you ship it to me, that little sample one, can you take some photos just of you holding it so I can visualize it?" And he sent me some photos of him. It was a blank book. Remember that first one? Like this, and obviously we know that he's just looking at a blank book. So I can't talk to other then it's not even a self-publishing company. You're the one that is doing the self-publishing. You just need a company that can print books for you.
Gotcha. So that brings us to, what is the cost of self-publishing versus the other methods?
Well, I've never done the other method, right? So I've never gone with a publisher. I imagine the cost with an actual publisher is heartache, heartbreak, going through hundreds and hundreds of publishers and being told to F off, and maybe eventually finding one where they say, we'll take a punt on you, but we want 90% of the royalties.
Right.
That was kind of some of the thinking that I had with wanting to self-publish. So when you self-publish, obviously you get volume discounts with book printers. Like the more you order at a time, the cheaper it is. But at first you don't know how it's going to go, so you can place orders gradually and sort of build up. And yeah, I mean, so it depends on who you found. I think when you're ordering it in large quantities, you could probably get the cost down to under $2 a book, maybe. I've not ordered in that kind of quantity. I think for me, it's about in dollars, maybe $5 a book, something like
Yeah.
that. So the book itself, just to print, is like $5, and then it costs me money to ship and the money for that environmentally friendly envelope and all the rest of it on top of it. But
Yeah.
you know, enough people take the upsells that I just about break even, and really that's all my goal. I want as many people to hold my business card as possible and to get value from it, right? And my book as well, I snuck in a couple of chapters on like things you can do to make the world a better place, things you can do to sleep better yourself, to make better decisions yourself. I couldn't resist. In a book about e-commerce, I still threw those things in, but that's because that's I want to help people make money, but I want to help them make money ethically in a way that improves the world, which is why my next e-commerce brand has like a charitable element. It's completely plastic free. It has like no carbon fiber footprint. We're going to be, I could talk for hours about it, but it's an ethical company that will be very successful.
So, we're talking about like creating the book and writing the book is one thing, but then there's the marketing of the book, right? Getting it into as many hands as possible. Do you have any tips outside from like reaching to your own audience? Are there any other tips where you can expand the reach and get it into even more hands?
Sure. So affiliates are always good. So people that so an affiliate is someone who in your space has an audience. Okay, so it could be someone that has a large YouTube channel or a blog, or is a coach or a teacher, or has a course, or or a Facebook group, right? So it's finding those people, getting into a conversation with them, and sending them a copy of your book. And saying, hey, if you like it, would you be prepared to share a link to it? So the better the book, the easier that is. So that's a great way with affiliates. Obviously, with your own audience is really, really helpful. But yeah, just talking about your book, all of those people that reviewed your book as well, just asking them, hey, would you mind, you've got a copy of the book now, would you mind sharing that, just doing a post on your social media, just saying, oh, look, I just picked up a copy of Martyn's book, I love it. On that final slide on my my thing, Dipesh Mandalia, he's like a phenomenally successful, phenomenally smart Facebook advertiser. He runs a Facebook advertising agency, he's a Facebook partner, and that he's spent millions and millions and millions of dollars. That's a post from him where he said, finally got to read it, Martyn. It's superb. So he's posted this on his Facebook.
Right.
The book kind of does it in justice. It's a manual and reference guide for e-com store owners and so much more. I learned some great tips on negotiation, biohacks, and CRM. Congrats. He's just posted on that. And there's countless more guys that I've just, sent a copy, or they bought a copy, who have just posted that on their social media. So you get this sort of snowball effect as well. But any way that you currently sell things online,
that would be a way.
should work for books.
So is there, does self-publishing close the door to traditional publishing in the future? I heard that myth somewhere.
No, I don't think it does, because I think that the only, in my research, again, I didn't even go down the publish route, so take this with a grain of salt. But my understanding is that like a publisher wants exclusivity to your book, right? So every book, the copy that's sold, they get a certain amount of royalties. They don't want to compete with other publishers. They're happy to compete with you typically, right? The fact that your book's already out there may even help you a little bit when talking to publishers, because you can say, look, it's not just a book and a concept. I've actually got, this sales. Many sales, out there. I've got this many testimonials, so maybe you should take me a little bit more seriously. So it could actually go the other way and help you.
So what do you think about, respect an author? Because a lot of people think, well, if I'm not published by a publishing house, then kind of like, it's not really a respectable way for a first-time author to be putting his own stuff out there. What do you think about that?
I think that's bullshit. I think that I don't think I've ever read a book and gone, oh no, they've got some good words in there, but it's not published by Penguin, so I'm not going to take them seriously. I would pay far more attention to recommendations, testimonials, forewords. Flicking through the book, if it's on Amazon, they give you little previews, the back of the book, which is really important real estate to sell the book. I pay way more attention to that, and understanding who it is the author is, and why they're qualified to talk to me.
So let's talk about Amazon bestseller for a second. Before we started our show, you and I were joking about the fact that you can become an Amazon seller. There's an article out there, guys, if you want to. How did I become an Amazon bestseller in 5 minutes and $3? And it's basically this guy who took a picture of his foot. The book was called Putting My Foot Down. He put it up on Amazon, had 3 of his friends buy the book. And in the first hour, I think it reaches some categories top. Take a screenshot of that. And here I am, a best-selling author. And a lot of people who don't know that story, right, they kind of like geek out or like, oh my God, look at me, I'm an Amazon bestseller. So 2 questions. One, you and I know this stuff. Is there any value really in being an Amazon bestseller? And the second one, I know you did not go the Amazon route, but is there any value because of Amazon's reach and marketplace and discoverability and search and all that stuff? Is there any value in putting your book on Amazon?
Sure. So there's absolutely value in putting your book on Amazon, and in many ways, particularly if you're doing like like a funnel similar to mine. If you put it on Amazon at a much higher price point, not only will you get sales, say $20, right? Not only will you get sales at $20, you can sort of point out on your website that, by the way, I'm already getting people buying my book at $20 on Amazon, and check out the reviews from those happy people. And so it sort of helps reinforce how valuable it is that they can get it for free.
Right.
Okay. We're not tricking anyone here. This is just literally the point. And if they come through your funnel, then at the very least, you're just a little bit closer and more hands-on in terms of the people that are buying the things, and you can ensure that the quality's there and stuff.
I like that.
In terms of the best-selling status, I think we see it a lot, but it probably still holds value when someone goes, I'm a best-selling author or an internationally best-selling author. I think that still holds weight, because the majority of people don't realize that literally as long as your book got to #1 in a tiny little category on Amazon for 10 seconds, that's enough to classify you as a best-selling author.
What did you call it when we were talking? Was it like what was the category?
Well, you were talking about that person that said they had a picture of their foot.
Yeah, and you said...
So it's like, maybe he'd sort of come out in the category of,
nail something.
Middle toe nail art or something. People that enjoy art on the nail of your third toe or something. Like a tiny little category that is easy to win at. That, whereas if they're bestsellers in like business books, you're like, okay, that's it's a big category with big competition. Good job. So, but most people, I'm sure, don't delve into that. I just try and be authentic all the way through with everything I do, because the customers I'm selling to and wanting to speak to, they're smart people. They see through smoke and mirrors like that, and so you might as well be authentic and do it the hard way, but the hard way is normally the best way.
Yeah, and actually the way that you described it today is not so hard at all. I like it. Walk the dog, get in shape, and write your book. I think that should be the title of your next book. Walk the dog, get in shape, write your next book.
A book about how I wrote the book, yeah.
Exactly, right? Let me teach you how to make $1 million by placing ads for $5 in newspaper. Send me $5 and I'll tell you how I made it. So, Stuart, you had a question. You want to jump in, Stuart? You can unmute yourself. There you go.
I keep myself muted, so I got a big fan in the background. I hope it's not interrupting things.
Oh, you're fine.
No, I was curious. In your publishing method, you're using a true book format, book publishing. You're doing it the traditional way. But what do you think of Kindle as a way of publishing, A, and B, since you've now got it down to a manuscript, recording that chapter by chapter and compiling it into a paid verbal format, although Kindle will do that for you?
I think that's a great question. So definitely, there's definitely people that have reached out to me and said they would prefer it in an electronic version, in an ebook version. I've held off doing that for as long as possible. I'm sure the ebook's going to come out anytime soon, and the reason is the second you've got a digital version out there, that first copy that goes out into the world, now it's on the internet, now you can't get it back, and someone somewhere is eventually going to rip that and put it online, okay, for free. And so I wanted to avoid that for as long as possible. It also comes a little bit from my own personal preference that like I like a physical book. I think a physical book holds more value. I wanted to ship something physical to customers. I feel like that's a little bit more personal. It sits on their bookshelf, like up there. It sits on their bookshelf, and it's and it's kind of like in that around them, for a long time. And I just, call me woo woo, but that was kind of what I was going for. Now, of course, the ebook's on its way. Now, you asked about the audiobook. So this little thing here is like a little sound booth that you put a microphone in here, and then you sort of speak into it like this, and it kind of cuts out all background noise, like your fans, Stuart. And so I bought that. And now, bearing in mind, I've already said every word in my book. Okay, I've already transcribed it, but that's that's out and about. There's cars driving past. There's words that were meant for my dog, not for the book, and things like that. And so it absolutely needs to be re-recorded. Okay, so but now for me, that becomes quite an effort, because now I'm not just ad-libbing like you and I, right? Like, I've already spoken to answer your question probably for 4 minutes, okay? I've written half a chapter talking to you if this was transcribed. But now that if I'm reading my book, right, verbatim, if I'm actually reading my book and for an Audible thing, that becomes an effort for me again. And so it's on it. Loads of people want the Audible book, okay? And you have two options. Either you record it yourself, so it's in your voice, which I think is way more intimate, right? So people are hearing your voice and so on. Or you can team up with you can either pay someone, or you can team up with a professional sound artist, or whatever they call narrator.
Voiceover.
Yeah, and you split the royalties on the audiobook with that person. I wanted it to be in my voice, potentially to my detriment. So I think I've recorded maybe 3 chapters at this point in Audible. I fully intend to have an Audible version of the book. It'll be a case when I have some spare time, because it's 13 times 40 minutes of recording, assuming I don't mess up, and I will definitely mess up. So
I have a second question, if you don't mind, Ifan. Secondly, when you were talking about your having it transcribed and then more or less edited by someone who was not a professional editor, did you find that you had to go back through and perhaps separate out paragraphs, reparagraph, paginate it, whatever?
No. So on the YouTube videos, you'll find like how to set up Scrivener so that it things like when you've got this, the pages that are on this side have a bigger gap closer to the spine, and the ones on this side have a gap on, so one's on the left hand side, one's on the right hand side. All that stuff you can just set up in Scrivener. So I just had my staff member Grace had never used Scrivener before. I just had her watch some videos. She got up to speed on it very, very quickly. In terms of her editing, she's got a good grasp of the English language. She'd written a few blog posts before. That was good enough for me. She knows how I speak as well, which kind of helps a bit. But no, that was good enough for me. She could always listen to the actual raw audio that I had transcribed if she wanted to get tone or inference or something. But no, she did a great job. So and you can always do some sanity checking of the Google Doc, right? Like if you're worried about certain words maybe coming out wrong, like maybe it was transcribed like you say the word there and they've put in the wrong one, like THEIR, or THEYRE and all that sort of stuff, the different spelling of it. You can just do a find and replace and just quickly scan through those. and see that. They had great problem. I can't remember what the word was, but there was one word I said quite a lot, which they kept quite sort of the transcriber misspelt. It's just, find and replace all. 2 seconds.
Good enough. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I love this one. We got like 5 more minutes. Jen is here. Jen already published her kids' book, and she has some questions about publishing on Amazon. Jen, hop on in.
Hey, Martyn, how's it going?
It's going good, thanks, Jen. How are you?
Good. Hey, Fat, nice to see you.
Likewise.
I love what you're doing, P.S. I just always love you bring so much value. It's totally awesome. So I'm sitting here, Martyn, listening to you, and although I think a book similar to yours is in my future, what's in my immediate past, I'm actually about to release the second one in 2 weeks, is my character called Yehudi Hu, and he is a children's picture book. So, we do a little bit different as far as like publishing goes, and we also self-published, but we paid for a couple thousand copies of the book and that sort of thing. My question to you was about Amazon. Well, one thing I wanted to say, thank you for the thought on the foreword, because I haven't thought about a foreword for a kid's book because you don't usually see them, and I think it's epic, brilliant. I'm not going to cuss on your show, Fat, but I think it's totally awesome. And so I don't know the rules. So, so I am definitely now thinking about a foreword, which is rad. But I wanted to ask about Amazon ads and if you had used them and how they had worked for you, and that sort of thing.
So remember, this particular book is not on Amazon, right? Like at the moment, I intend it to be. I intend it to be on Amazon. So I'll give you a little fun backstory about me. So about 6 years ago, as a little side hustle, I created this little system with some outsourced workers to create and publish children's books on Amazon, and we had 2,500 books published on Amazon, and they were all non-fiction, like books, and so we had those. It was great. It was churning out a few $1,000s a month on autopilot. It's the only true automatic money printing business I've ever had, right? And after 5 years of riding that train, Amazon saw some issue with it and sort of said, hey, you're banned. And so at the moment, what we're in the process of doing is finding a way to publish this book. Because we've been tired by that business, which I had, I didn't write a single word in that business either, and I didn't just transcribe, so I'm finding a way to get my book online. So I can't really speak much about Amazon ads for books. Now, we've used Amazon plenty of times, and the ads for selling physical products on Amazon, and I mean, these are higher cost, like higher value products. But typically, most advertisers come in, they run an auto ad, narrow it down as much as they can, run an auto ad, see what people are searching for to then find your product, and then begin to create what's known as a manual ad, where they're searching just for those terms that the auto ad has shown to be the terms that find your book. And then they do a whole bunch of stuff about getting reviews and getting up the rankings and stuff like that. I would potentially, if you're looking to get your book out there, and you've got the funds to do so, I'd potentially look to a book consultant. And there's a few out there. There's a guy named Trevor Crane who he's not cheap, but he's fantastic. Who I interviewed him a while ago. He's a really good guy to know, and he helps you become a bestseller on Amazon and then beyond. And I think he's got like.
Yeah, we're actually we leveraged and to, I know we're running out of time, but to maybe answer back to Stuart's question a little bit, and I don't know if it works the same in every genre, but we leveraged Kindle for pre-launch of our book last year, and our first book, and we actually ended up making we were in the top 5 kids books for 3 months in a row, and the top 4 kids books for 4 months, and we made, I think the payout on that was $2,500 or $3,000 a month to be in that top spot. And we got like 240 reviews, and I mean, amazing shit happened because we utilized Kindle. And then we also were able to do a Spanish version without paying for a hard copy Spanish version, which is friggin' sweet, because we were able to expand that audience. And the other thing that Kindle did for us that was interesting was gave us insight into places that we were popular that we didn't really think about. So like we had a spike in Japan, and we were like, Japan, like, whatever. And so then you think about like, okay, well, how can I reach more people in Japan, right? Because obviously there's some attraction there. So I think, for us anyway, Kindle has been great.
Yeah, and definitely recommend it. It's it's a great place to get out there. Just be aware that even on Kindle, you feel it. It's digital. The second something's online and it's digital, it can be ripped. But you can sort of take solace, I guess, in the fact that the people ripping your book probably would have never paid for it anyway, so they were never your customers. And the more people that have your book, they might talk about it and someone might buy your book. I know Tim Ferriss went through this when he found a pirated copy of 4 Hour Workweek and he went off the rails, and then his friend talked to him around and said, these guys wouldn't have bought it from you anyway, so chill out.
Right.
It's free publicity type thing.
No, and that's the kind of book, like I have that book on my shelf and it's all tabbed and written in the margins and shit. Like I wanted a copy of that book, so,
Okay.
There's value in having the hard copy. All right, cool. Well, sweet. Thanks, Martyn. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for your question.
Yeah, I love it. So, and I don't know how to pronounce your name.
You're really quiet, Eva.
There you go. I'm muting myself so that I don't go into the wormhole and then I forget to unmute. So Mansebria, I think. I don't know how to pronounce your name. She says, this is awesome stuff. Thank you, Martyn. Fantastic. So guys, if you want Martyn's book, the same way that I have with a dedication, right, Martyn? Because you're going to dedicate it to them. All you have to go is amthatgeek.com/live. You'll see this exact image right there. Click on it, and you're going to go straight into Martyn's funnel, and you can model it, and you can see how he does his things, and you can definitely get the book, leave a review because it's a fantastic book. And I think everybody here, everyone who wants to take action, because we get so much great information, and then we're like, yeah, I'm going to do it, and then nothing happens, right? So if you actually want to take action, we have a place for that. It's called amthatgeek.com/join, and we're going to take action on this together. So if you want to have your book done, if you want to see what it actually looks like, right, this one, then hop on in, grab the book, read the stuff, and then come model it together. So Martyn, thank you so much. Definitely third time's a charm. So glad to have you.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. Thank you so much. Thank you for the questions. It's great. This is a great sort of surroundings to be in, having friendly faces. Jen only put a couple of fingers up at me like twice, which I think is pretty good. So I'm kidding, of course. It's really great to have friendly faces around whilst you're presenting and stuff. It's always nice to know that there's someone out there listening, right? So I hope that helps you guys. I'm also gonna get this presentation online at some point, so I'll send you the link to that, Ifat, and you can share with the audience if they want it.
That'd be fantastic. So thanks again, guys, for joining us. Next week, we are going to talk about selfies. What do your selfies say about you? It's really interesting. And we're going to talk about it from a PR point of view. So hop on in, join us, make sure this is in your calendars. Thank you again, Martyn. You are fantastic with all the value that you're generating. I mean, this should have been a paid class, and we just got it here. So thank you so much again.
Wait, I'm not getting paid? What?
You're not getting paid? What? I know. This was behind the scenes something. So thanks again. Have a fantastic weekend, guys, and we'll see you in another episode of I'm That Geek in 2 weeks' time. Bye.